It's not, because it's not an automatic weapon. And that's the very important thing. An assault rifle is something that was created back in Germany. It's not used in the military. We're talking about a semi-automatic rifle that uses the same caliber as hundreds, possibly thousands of long hunting rifles. And what defines a rifle is not how it looks. What defines it is the mechanism of rifling. And as I've already told you, it's all throughout the Founding Fathers' writings and the Federalist Papers. And keep in mind, we have the Bill of Rights because of the Anti-Federalist concern that a strong central government would limit the rights of the people. It is there not for hunting. It is there to prevent tyranny, which we have seen gun control used on Americans throughout our history to dramatically drastic and awful effects. Native Americans had gun control. They were butchered. Obviously, African Americans butchered as a result of gun control. Remember, it was the NRA that came to the defense of many of these former slaves to arm them and protect them from these roving murder squads that were being used in the South.
Ron?
Well, chilling to think that people are arming themselves to fight back against the government, because I see myself in the offices I probably work with on the front line of that issue. I don't think that's reality talk. This is not the reasonable conversation that we need to have about gun control in this country.
Now, when we're talking about automatic, that means one trigger and it keeps going, versus semi-automatic requires another.
Frankly, I'd rather have a gunman go into an area with an automatic weapon, because it's less accurate. They're going to burn through a lot more ammo. There will be far more opportunities to take them down with it. Semi-automatic weapon is much more controlled. It's aimed. Anybody, again, I was infantry. I can tell you this unequivocally is true. The fact of the matter is, there is a real threat. We hope to God it never happens, but it is very realistic, because it has happened in this country's history not once but twice, that the government at some point could become tyrannical and move against the people. We hope it never happens, but that is one of the reasons that provision was put in there, because we had to do it once, then we had to do it in the Civil War again. A lot of the issues facing the country right now were complaints during those two previous conflicts, and there's a reason that, you know, sheriff's organizations around the country, he named off a bunch of police chief organizations, but sheriff organizations around the country are on my side. They're not on the chief's side. And frankly, I'd encourage people to look at the Oath Keepers too. Law enforcement, military personnel that are sworn to uphold and protect the people if, hypothetically, that scenario of tyranny ever were to materialize in this country again. And I would hope that the chief would be on the side of the people.
Peter, we're going to take down the U.S. government when it becomes
I'm like the chief. I find that completely frightening.
I find it frightening.
The Civil War was the guys with the guns rising against the government, the United States government. It wasn't the other way around. And, you know, I had a younger brother who was career military. I have an older brother who was in the military during the Vietnam War. And just to think that these people are arming themselves to take on the U.S. military is I think, absurd. It's absurd and frightening.
They're themselves to take care of it, but it is a protection.
That's who the government is. The government is the U.S. Army.
The government, actually, that's
well, the government is, that's who is going to be supporting the government. And you're tyrannical.
But there's also, again, we're talking about a hypothetical if tyranny were to ever rise in this country, and there's a protection and a mechanism in place to prevent that from ever happening. But keep in mind, when we talked about the Second Amendment too, it talks about the militia and the Indiana Constitution. Everybody over the age of 17 is allowed to own a weapon and is a part of the militia to protect themselves and the state. You cannot protect the state with a 9mm with 10 rounds.